So this PowerPoint is called Language and Literacy for Infants and Toddlers, and it has about 5 sections. The first section is Language and Literacy for Infants and Tots. Why is it important? Second, it goes into how can parents and caregivers best support language and literacy. Third, parent-child activities. So I'm going to go into like specific activities you can do at home, specific activities that you can implement in your lesson plan in the classroom or your virtual lesson plans as you make activity plans at home. 4, we're going to go into serve and return, which is probably something you guys all know about, but it's just I found a really cool video on serve and return and how that helps teachers especially. 5, we're going to go into a literacy kit, which I have like a little kit of how things I use in the classroom, and then a list of how you can make a literacy kit at home or in your own classroom. So that's it. So we'll start here. I'm gonna have to move my screen. Okay, so language and literacy for infants and toddlers. Why is it important? Watching your baby and learning how she communicates through sounds, facial expressions, and gestures are all important ways to help her learn, or him, about language and the written word. Early language and literacy skills are learned best through everyday moments with your child. Reading books, talking, laughing, and playing together. Children learn language when you talk to them and communicate back, and they communicate back to you, and by hearing stories read and songs sung aloud. Children develop early literacy skills when you give them the chance to play and explore books and other written materials like magazines, newspapers, takeout menus, markers, and crayons. So I wanted to insert that piece of information, and this is all coming from the 0to3.org website, because those are some things that parents might have at home. Okay, how can parents and caregivers best support language and literacy? Describe feelings and experiences. So helping to identify, oh, you're nuzzling at my shirt, you're telling me you're hungry. And obviously these are things that we all know, but it's a nice refresher. Or, okay, your milk is coming, I'm getting it. Kind of identifying, I can hear you're hungry, it's coming soon. Copying your baby's sounds and encouraging him to imitate you. Putting words on her sounds. So this is especially helpful for infant teachers. If you notice like an animal or a picture of something, and Miss Erin can say, oh my gosh, is that a doggy over there? So identifying the word and modeling the word for infants who might not have the word to use themselves. Singing songs, making up songs. I thought this was kind of cute, like for parents to use at home. Happy bath time to you, happy bath time to you, along the like happy birthday tune. Just things to get them to hear different vocabulary and especially rhymes. So a lot of what I was reading was, you know, children learn best when words are rhyming, when they're sung, when the person is enthusiastic. That helps children to acquire literacy and language skills. And some other activities that help children to acquire language and literacy skills. Playing peekaboo. It's a simple turn-taking game. It has good practice of how to have a conversation later on. You can try holding a book. For teachers that are planning distance learning, you can put activities like hiding, especially infants, it's kind of hard to lesson plan, but hiding an object like under a scarf, and then you reveal it and you see whatever the parent has at home, a Lego or a truck or a car. Mirror play, like have your baby look at themselves in the mirror and they see their reflection. Playing back and forth game of peekaboo with themselves. Any kind of back and forth games, especially again for infants, toddlers too, but with a baby rattle or a soft ball, when they can exchange the ball with you, see if they can grab it from your hands. It's a practice also for having conversation, because it's giving them the modeling of back and forth engagement. Reading lots of books. Reading obviously is one of the #1 ways to help children, babies, infants, toddlers acquire language. So they're hearing you model the words and language. Even seeing the pages flip is a way to show children how to read and how to look at books. More parent-child activities. So again, these are activities that parents and children can use at home. Also, teachers can plan for these types of things, doing distance learning or learning in the classroom. Creating a photo album. Parents are home, they might have pictures in their house already. Just gonna let somebody in here, or if there's a chat. Hi Lauren, can you let me into the meeting? Yes, I can. Sorry about that, Jackie. Creating a photo album. So if you have photos at home, you can laminate them if you're cool and, you know, have like lots of tools like a laminator like Jane probably has, but I don't have a laminator, so I would use maybe like tape or packing tape, especially for babies who might rip it. 2-year-olds probably wouldn't rip it, so they could probably, you know, play with photos. Parents can make sensory bins and put photos in it, and children can explore photos. New textures, exploring textures is actually a way to promote language and literacy. So making a texture bin, or things at home could be like yarn, tissue paper maybe parents have. They might have bubble wrap or tin foil. Things like that will get parents engaging with their children and using the vocabulary of the item they're using. So this is foil, and a baby might not be able to say the word foil, but you're still introducing them to vocabulary. Songs and finger plays, again, this is a really great way to get parents using words, vocabulary, their fingers, like Thumpkin or any of those cute little patty cake songs that they're using their hands and they're using gestures. Another concept I wanted to talk about was serve and return. So serve and return, we talk a lot about, especially for infants, because infants don't have the language. So how do you get infants to interact and respond to you if they don't talk? Serve and return helps us to understand how infants communicate, even if it's without words. So this is a really kind of interesting video, I thought, that helps us to understand the concept.
With your baby, even before they can use actual words, is an important way you can help them learn and develop language. It's a lot like tennis. The conversation should bounce back and forth. To begin, make eye contact and serve up an open-ended question. How are you feeling today? Return. It might take a few seconds, so don't jump in too soon. Give them your attention and stay ready. Now, just keep the back and forth rally going. Happy? Excited? Your baby might respond with a sound, a gesture, or even a smile. Too. We're gonna have a good day today. It doesn't have to be a long wait. A few games every day can make a big difference. Just find the right time and serve up some conversation. Well, what do you want to have for dinner? Great return, Mama. Good shot, baby. Way to wait for it, Mom. Now serve it back. Yeah! I think these are a great idea. Back and forth. There you go. Yeah, that's blue. What else is blue? What a rally. So get in the game. Talking with your baby will help them develop language skills and set them up to be good readers and successful in school later on. And when they're ready, they'll start using words. In this game, there are no bad shots and everyone wins with a score of love.
So as you can see, serve and return is a great practice, really for infants, but also for toddlers and twos, because it allows us to communicate back and have a game and exchange of reciprocity where we're acknowledging their gestures and sounds and modeling how we have conversations. So even though they might not, again, have the words to say, yes, Mama, I am hungry, we can acknowledge their coo as a way that they are responding. And every time, like in the game, when you paddle back, you're having that exchange of dialogue and setting them up to understand how conversations will happen later. So serve and return is a way to build language development and model the exchange of conversation for when they are 3 and 2, and even 1 when they do have the language skills and the words. And again, I will email this presentation, so if you want to go back and take a look at the serve and return video, it will be there. Okay, so next is how to build a literacy kit. So I thought this was a useful tool that you can use at home, parents can use at home, teachers can use this in the classroom. You can use this as part of your distance learning sort of toolkit. And basically, these items can be gathered, placed in a plastic Rubbermaid container, and you can use them, again, like I said, at home or in your classroom. So I just kind of put together 5 different activities using common household items that you might have, and listed how does that help us to acquire language development. So the first thing is letter name puzzles. And this is a really fun one, definitely for 2s, but also for toddlers and infants, where you literally would just cut out paper, construction paper, computer paper, and cut out letters of a child's name. And you literally, let's say it's Tucker's in your class, you're gonna cut out Tucker. And now when we pull that out of our literacy kit, Tucker can identify that the T is in his name. Maybe when he's 2, he can see that he's Tucker. So we're helping children build letters and using physical cutouts to help them acquire the language and help them identify letters. So it also encourages children to associate sounds with letters, that T is for the t sound. Again, as they get older, you can make it more challenging where you're spreading out maybe a T and an M, and now they're going to find out which one spells Tucker and which one spells Mackenzie. So there's definitely ways to make it more challenging for your 2-year-old, or for an infant, you're literally just modeling that this is T and this is the sound it makes, and having them look at the letter, feel the letter. Can you all still hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Next activity is a pom-pom that you can kind of add to your toolkit here. This is something I do in my classroom. I literally just get pom-poms from the Dollar Tree store. I store this in my bin, my literacy kit, and you can come up with a little song that goes with it. My toddlers typically pass the pom-pom around to each other when it's their turn to hold it. I sing a little song and I insert their name. I put the song in here for you to see. So it's, again, a way to initiate interactions with peers and also to express language. They're identifying and hearing sounds and associating, oh, M's for Mackenzie. That sounds like me, and that is me. And we know that it's their turn, and I can identify when it's their name because the teacher is reinforcing, yes, you're Mackenzie, your turn. So just hearing the name, now we have self-identification. We understand the sounds associated with the words that my teacher is using. Next are balloons. This is another fun thing to add to your toolkit. You just cut out paper in the shape of balloons. You can laminate them to make them more durable if you're home and don't have a laminator. You can use packing tape. You can even probably put them in Ziploc bags that are maybe freezer size. For infants, this is a fun way for them to just explore, oh, wow, this is yellow. And you can even write on the balloon yellow. And so you're saying the word, they see the word, and they see the color. So it's a way to identify the color name. Again, the sound of yellow with an actual image of what a yellow item is. You can even sing a little song with that, but another activity and another set of items to store in your literacy kit. Magnet letters. So again, we want to make sure that magnets are always, of course, 1 1/4 inch big, especially for our infant toddler group. But magnets you may have at home. If not, it's something to use when you get back into the classroom. You can use them on a cookie sheet. You can do high frequency words, also called sight words, like up, it, on, the. We can make our names with magnets. And it's obviously a fine motor activity, but also we're working to complete a task, and we're practicing letter identification. We're identifying sounds. We're associating letters with sounds, and those are the building blocks of language and literacy acquisition. Another group of items here to store in your literacy kit: writing and rice. So if you have rice, for infants, that might be tricky, so you could substitute it with like pudding or yogurt. You wouldn't want to keep this always in your literacy kit, but you know, we could take it out of the fridge and use it on demand. But so writing, literally just using a finger to make the movements of an A or a B. For infants, you probably would have to do a little more hand over hand guidance to kind of manipulate, help them to encourage the movement of, I'm making a T, and now I'm making a U, and now I'm making a C. But using the phonological awareness to identify letters based on their sound. Again, we're matching sounds with letters. Okay, Lego letters is the next activity. How can we use letters to make words with Legos? So you might have Legos at home. This is another way we can use this in our distance learning. We can use this inside the classroom. Parents can use this. They may have Legos at home. So if you have Legos at home, you just would take a magic marker or a permanent marker, whatever color you have, and literally on each Lego, just write a letter. So I'm writing on T on one Lego, U, K-E-R, and now I have a string of Legos, and I'm gonna build them literally to make a word. So it's actually kind of a science STEAM activity, but another way that we're building literacy and language skills. We're recognizing letter sounds. If you're doing this in a group setting, of course, when we get back into our classrooms, we're participating in a group activity. But at home, you know, it still is a really great way to encourage language and literacy development. We're fostering self-confidence because they're building something from start to finish. They're completing each task and having a great outcome as a result. You can substitute this too with balls if you don't have Legos and you have like a balls, but you know, I don't know, that's kind of a thing I thought of if parents don't have Legos at home. You could do balls and line balls up, any kind of thing that, you know, we're using an object to build letters. This is another video on reading and literacy, and I incorporated in here because I really feel like it's a good way to see the building blocks of literacy. And okay, so a lot of people say, well, infants can't talk. How are they learning? How are they gaining these language and literacy skills? Well, they are. And from birth, we really are beginning to take shape of how we acquire lifelong literacy and learning skills. So here it goes.
Once upon a time, there was a baby, and someone loved the baby very much. And this is where learning to read begins. Reading this book together is no ordinary experience. It's actually quite extraordinary. Why? Because researchers have found that when parents read books to their babies, point to the pictures, and delight in their babies' discoveries through books, children develop a love of books that later builds strong reading skills. What's the connection? It turns out that the more words children hear and come to understand, the more words they can say, and the better their vocabulary and reading skills are likely to be. When you stop and think about it, young children hear their parents say a lot of words every day, and it adds up. One very important research study found that children whose parents talk to them frequently As they go about their daily activities, hear about 45 million words in the first 4 years. In families that don't talk as much, young children only heard about 13 million words. That's a difference of 32 million words that babies and toddlers don't get to hear and learn from. So one of the most important ways you can help your child develop strong communication skills and eventually learn to read is to have fun talking with him and sharing books with him, starting at birth. But many parents naturally wonder why reading to babies is so important, since sometimes they seem to have other ideas. But this is how babies get to know all about books. The more you read together, the more your child begins to understand how books work and how enjoyable they can be. And as you explore books together, your child learns that the printed words and the pictures have meaning. In fact, research has found that the more experience children have with books, the more likely they are to read early and well. This also helps with the development of other important thinking skills, like problem solving. And new brain imaging techniques have revealed that some really amazing things are going on in your child's brain while you are reading together. First, the brain focuses on the task of reading itself, which activates the cerebral cortex. The brain then snaps a picture of the printed letters on the page using the occipital lobe. A signal is transmitted from the occipital lobe to the angular gyrus. That's where the visual symbol of a letter is matched up to its sound and meaning. But wait, that's not all. Reading or being read to is a whole brain experience. When we read or hear words in a story like, Jessie smelled sweet cookies baking in the oven, the part of our brain that processes and responds to smells lights up. When we hear phrases like, the dog's fur was cold and wet, the sensory area of our brain gets turned on as well. And action sentences like, Marco hit the ball as hard as he could, set off activity in the part of our brain that coordinates movement. What researchers have found is that there is quite a lot of overlap in the brain networks that are used to understand stories and the brain networks used to make sense of our interactions with the people in our lives. In fact, one research study found that preschoolers who had been read to more were better able to understand and empathize with other people and see the world from their perspective. This develops some very important cognitive and social emotional skills. But sharing books with babies and toddlers is not just about their minds, it's also about their hearts and strengthening their bond with you. Reading a story while cuddled up on the lap of someone who adores them makes children feel loved, safe, and secure. All critical social emotional milestones. This kind of parent-child interaction makes children feel good about themselves and feel good about their connection with the people they love most, you. So this story ends where it began, with a child and someone who loves him. But it doesn't look so ordinary anymore, does it? By reading and talking with your little one, beginning from birth, you are making extraordinary things happen in your child's brain. You are not just building literacy skills, you are also nurturing thinking skills and language skills and helping your child build positive relationships with others. That's a lot to get out of a book, especially one with teeth.
I think some people joined in after the serve and return. Is that okay if I play that one more time? Yes or no? I'm gonna do it one more time because I feel like this is a really good one.
Talking with your baby even before they can use actual words is an important way you can help them learn and develop language. It's a lot like tennis. The conversation should bounce back and forth. To begin, make eye contact and serve up an open-ended question. How are you feeling today? Then wait for a return. It might take a few seconds, so don't jump in too soon. Give them your attention and stay ready. Now just keep the back and forth rally going.
Happy? Excited?
Respond with a sound, a gesture, or even a smile.
Too. We're gonna have a good day today.
It doesn't have to be a long match. A few games every day can make a big difference. Just find the right time and serve up some conversation.
Well, what do you want to have for dinner?
Great return, Mama. Good shot, baby. Way to wait for it, Mom. Now serve it back.
Yeah, I think these are a great idea.
Back and forth. There you go.
Yeah, that's blue. What else is blue?
What a rally. So get in the game. Talking with your baby will help them develop language skills and set them up to be good readers and successful in school later on. And when they're ready, they'll start using words. In this game, there are no bad shots and everyone wins with a score of love.
Alrighty. So as we saw in that slide, the one, second to last one I played, books have a really great way of helping children to see and learn a new vocabulary. We're modeling how we use the printed word, and they give printed words meaning, and reading helps us learn how to use a book and physically turn the pages. Again, I felt like it really spoke to the importance of reading and using books at home and in the classroom, even for infants who can't use the words, but they're still acquiring the language and literacy skills. So at this point, I wanted to kind of open up if anyone wanted me to return to any slides or had any questions. I wanted to open it up kind of to you guys, that we can have an open kind of dialogue about language and literacy for infants and toddlers, or even if you wanted to share something you use in your classroom that you find is really effective and you wanted to share that with the group. Yeah, Jane writes that I think that a lot of this can be used in the 3 and over group, and I would definitely agree. I think especially like magnet building, building letters with magnets or building letters with Legos is definitely appropriate for the 3 and over age group.
I have something to add.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I totally agree with you. I think that it is super crucial, important to use as much like just talk with these kids, because they literally soak up everything. And it's so important because before you know it, by you helping them do this, when most of the kids that we have in our care, they're starting to read by the time they're in kindergarten.
Right.
Just incredible, because it's so important, because we're so used to how big is it, what color is it, what is this, what is that, all the open-ended questions, and you're giving the kids ways to communicate back to you and exchange conversation, and it's so beneficial.
Right. That's a really good point. Is Miss Amanda's talking about when you're asking all those open-ended questions, that's such a great way to help them learn how conversations start and how helping them to engage with their peers and engage with adults And yeah, they're already starting to learn how to answer questions and have sophisticated dialogue. And by the time they leave preschool, they are learning to read. So yeah, I definitely agree. Lots of questions, lots of verbalizing all day long. We probably take it for granted how often we're verbalizing and identifying words and using the schedule to say, now we go outside and then we have lunch, like just kind of using that as like identifying those parts of our day is giving meaning to words.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. Does anybody else have something they like to use in the classroom? Zoom might make me leave at the 40-minute mark, which is in 5 minutes. Or any questions or suggestions?
I think it's important that you're reading all types of books, not just like a picture book that has one word on it for infants and toddlers, because they're getting the detail from the picture, not just necessarily the words on the page. If you're speaking the word yourself, so I think using like a book that is more geared for preschool, it might be over their level for understanding it, but they're getting the language and they're looking at the visual pictures.
Yes, that's such a good suggestion. Yep. And I even feel like I did that a lot during the Dr. Seuss book. I remember using so many books with like lots of words that aren't really the standard toddler picture books, but they still rhyme and, you know, we're still like, they're hearing the words. So I think it's just